Greetings, Mavericks and new viewers. Tonight, direct and live from the Maverick News Network World Studios. This is Maverick News with Rick Walker.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome back to the Maverick News Channel. It is raining oil in Iran, bringing back memories for me of the war in Kuwait, the first Gulf War, and the second, the blown up oil fields. This is not a new war. This is a continuation of a very, very old, persistent conflict. Multiple conflicts, in fact. We're going to reach back into the past a little bit tonight, while we also bring you up to date on the newest information from the Iran war, where we see tonight a new leader has been selected in Iran. And Donald Trump says the choice is unacceptable. Well, so much for Plan A. We were told this week that bombing Iran into democracy or freedom or whatever was the plan. Bomb first, see what happens after. Well, I guess that didn't work. We'll be right back and start digging into today's top news story on the other side of this.
Greetings, brave Mavericks. Our quest for truth continues. We go beyond fake news. Together we expose propaganda. Together we pull others out of rabbit holes. We are maverick thinkers. We are all unique individuals, defenders of individual rights and freedoms, credible, trusted, grounded in reality. Maverick News, Maverick News. Defending free speech, Donate at freedomreporters.com. Do it now. Tomorrow may be too late. Maverick News. The world is watching.
So tonight, right off the top, we should first tell you this because this is so important. The U.S. military has announced the death of another U.S. service member, bringing the total killed to combat to 7 tonight. There will be more information released on that, maybe in the hours ahead. Certainly, I think we'll know more by tomorrow about all of that. We're seeing new strikes targeting Tehran oil facilities this evening as the United States continues its heavy military campaign against Iran. Iran's next leader has now been chosen as well. And as I highlighted at the beginning of the broadcast, it's not to Donald Trump's liking. Iran's Assembly of Experts has selected the second son of Iran's slain supreme leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, or Khamenei, or however you may pronounce it. And he has been selected as the third leader of the Islamic Republic, according to several Iranian state-run media outlets back in North America, United States. NBC running this tonight.
Tonight, just 3 days after the killing of Ayatollah Khamenei, Iranian state media says a final vote is underway to pick a new supreme leader of the Islamic Republic. But Israel is doing what it can to derail the process. Today, bombing this building in the city of Qom, used by the assembly responsible for picking the new leader. The killing of the 86-year-old Ayatollah, whose compound was hit in the opening strike of the war, has left a leadership void at the top of the regime.
The leader of the pack is gone, and as you know, 49 people were taken out in the first hit.
For now, a three-man temporary council is in charge, including the president, who has limited powers, the chief justice, and a senior Islamic cleric. They're meeting in a secret location to avoid U.S. and Israeli attacks, and say they'll swiftly install a new leader. By law, that new leader must be a man, a religious figure, and elected by the Assembly of Experts, a council of 88 Islamic scholars. Iranian state media says none of the assembly members were killed in today's strikes, and that they're voting remotely for their own safety. Two sources tell NBC News that a CIA assessment made before the war concluded the next supreme leader will likely be a hardliner, possibly a member of the elite Revolutionary Guard. Contenders include Khamenei's own son, Mujtaba, who three Iranian officials tell the New York Times is emerging as a frontrunner, and Hassan Khomeini, the grandson of Ayatollah Khomeini, the founder of the Islamic Republic. Another possibility, the Chief Justice, who helped violently crush protests back in January. The U.S. hopes any new leader won't be in power for long, and that the protesters will rise up again, this time to topple the existing system once and for all.
Raf Sanchez joins us tonight from London. Raf, do we have a
Okay. So, yeah, and then to update that, Moshtaba Khamenei, second son of Iran's slain supreme leader, has been named as his replacement. So the statement comes from the Assembly of Experts, the panel of Shiite clerics, which is responsible under Iranian law for choosing the country's top leader. And Khamenei has been selected as the third now leader of the Islamic Republic. And this is being confirmed through reports from the IRIB, State TV, and Fars, Tasnim, and ISNA news agencies tonight. Now, President Trump, who has said in recent days that he will have a say, or the United States, meaning him, will have a say in who is selected as the next leader, has come out today. And has actually come out, I think, earlier in the week as well with a statement saying that this choice would be unacceptable, and says that he wants to handpick a new supreme leader. Now, as I said, we were told earlier this week, not directly by the president, but there were comments made here on the program that the plan appears to be to bomb Iran into democracy and or freedom or something, just launch this military attack, don't put boots on the ground, and then see what happens. Well, I guess we've seen what is going to happen. And this is not what President Trump, I'm sure, had envisioned. He, I think, has something else in mind. And this obviously then is not over, because this is unacceptable to the Trump administration. Trump said earlier this week they are wasting their time. Khamenei's son is a lightweight. He went on to say in this quote to Axios earlier this week, he said, I have to be involved in the appointment. He said, Khamenei's son is unacceptable to me. Clearly not recognizing Iran's sovereignty as a nation state. Be that as it is, a lot of variety of opinions on that. Depends on who you talk to. The U.S. strikes on Iran being condemned by some nations, including Russia. The Sergei Lavrov, highly critical in recent comments over the past 24 hours directed at the Trump administration. Also criticizing Israel's role in all of this as well. But even some critics of the Trump administration on the home front are supportive of any kind of change that might come in a positive way out of Iran, seeing Iran as a long-time problem and a long-time destabilizer in the Middle East, certainly since 1979, after the fall of the Shah and the rise of the current Islamic State. We're going to dig into some of the history of that. And by so doing tonight, I think we will show you how there are many dots that intersect through history, through time, through current events, back to the past, into other countries, including Latin American countries, Central American countries, where we're seeing activity right now involving the U.S. military in places like Venezuela, in places like Cuba, in places like Colombia, in places like El Salvador. And we're going to take you back to Nicaragua because that connects to Iran. And Iran may actually connect to Canada. So we're going to we're going to throw some dots out there. We're going to connect some of them for you tonight as we take a trip through history, straight into the present, and maybe the future as well. Stay with me. We have a lot of stuff to go over tonight. And the most important thing I am saving for the end of the broadcast. The single most important thing tonight. You have to wait for it till the end. You're not going to want to miss it. Stay with me.
Maverick News isn't just a news outlet, it's a community of truth seekers. Your donation at freedomreporters.com fuels our mission to report the stories that mainstream media won't touch. Thank you, Maverick family.
These kinds of military actions, these wars, this kind of war, they rarely turn out the way we're told they will turn out when they begin. And even especially in the United States, the war, as Rosalind Carter said back in the 70s, war is popular in the United States. And that is to some degree true, but not always true, and not with everyone. But support for any war is always strongest at the beginning. It wanes over time as the caskets come home, and we saw 6 yesterday come home. And now a 7th U.S. service member has passed away. We've seen cracks in the NATO alliance, real cracks between the UK and the United States, between Starmer and Trump. That in itself is tragic. Canada walking on eggshells as Mark Carney chooses his words very, very carefully. When asked about Canada's potential involvement in this Iranian war, a war with Iran, his words sometimes, I think, being misinterpreted by some but leaving a big question mark, which I think is actually what Mark Carney wanted to do and needed to do at the time this past week when asked about whether Canada would participate. And he left it somewhat ambiguous, saying that Canada will support its allies when it makes sense, but leaving it open-ended enough that some members of the Trump administration have cited Canada as being one of the only countries that has come out to be supportive of what the United States is doing. And in that regard, I think there is some truth to that. Canada is supportive because Canada does see the problems Iran has created in the Middle East, the destabilization, the bad acting, the pursuits of nuclear weapons. But there's no commitment there yet. And what is really going on between the UK and the US and Canada and the US is, and all of these NATO countries, virtually every other country, is they're looking for justification through international law before they take any kind of action. And Iran has really kind of fallen into a trap by attacking surrounding countries, even though they're saying they were attacking US military bases in those surrounding countries, neighboring countries to Iran. But that now has now given those other countries, all of those other countries, the legal justification to enter the conflict from a defensive posture, not an offensive posture, which was and is the condition that the UK has put forward to the United States for use of its military bases in the area at which they can launch aircraft and attacks against Iran. But Keir Starmer's saying the UK, Britain, learned some lessons from Iraq, and that's a good thing. And then I was thinking overnight, maybe we should be spending way more time on this program listening to what other leaders, other NATO countries are saying about not just this, but about all affairs in the world, instead of just what Trump is saying. The guy in the White House takes the oxygen out of every room he steps into with his bombastic behavior, and he dominates the news cycles because he is so bent on turning the world inside out, and he's doing it at a record pace. It is flood the zone every day, as Bannon says, all gas, no break. I can't fit all the news into a 3-hour broadcast. So tonight, as I've learned, I need to really kind of focus on the things that seem to be most important at the moment. Maybe we should be spending less time listening to the man who flies around on Air Force One and clearly lies about a lot of things, makes up numbers, makes all kinds of different statements that are clearly not true, that I think actually in the long run and even in the short run are hurting the United States. His comment yesterday about the deaths at the girls' school in Iran, saying that it was Iran that did it. I'm sorry, but I'm not sorry. That hurts the United States because the preliminary data, evidence that has come out points very clearly to a U.S. missile strike on it. And the United States, to take the actual high road in this, should just come out and own it. It's collateral damage. David Wiley mentioned it. He said that school was next to a military asset. It looks like probably the U.S. missile struck the school, but it wasn't targeting the school. It was targeting a nearby military asset. I don't know. There should be, and I think there is, an investigation that is taking place. Whether it will ever get us to the truth or not, I don't know. But this, you see, is being used by Russia and Iran and other adversaries of the United States. And let's not well, maybe it's not clear who an adversary of the United States, or at least the Trump version of the United States, is tonight. But it is being used in the information war this evening. In fact, there is new video out of that missile strike. And of course, the anti-American forces are out there using this. And I've noticed that it's being mentioned in diplomatic circles. It's being used in the information war to soil the United States and the reputation of the U.S. in this conflict. You should come clean on this, because I don't think the United States does target civilians. But if you lie about it and you get caught, you're in even worse shape than if you had just told the truth from the beginning in order to get people to a place of honesty. This apparently is footage from the strike that is circulating online now. And a freeze frame on a shot of the missile. This isn't conclusive to me. I don't believe anything, take anything at face value. Everything should be questioned. It could be AI. Who the hell knows? It looked to me like it's very real. And this is the video that is now being used, honestly, against the U.S. Shouldn't lie, because it's going to come back to bite you on the butt if it hasn't already. But we'll see. All of these lies that Donald Trump says about everything, they come back to bite him on the butt, including, talk about the economy, about how this war is going to be over in short order. It's not over. We're a week into it. It doesn't look to me like they have domination. This is a miscalculation. He's been rolling the dice. He's taking a chance. He's gambling on this. What's the real objective here? I don't know. It still isn't clear. Regime change, that seems to be part of it. That isn't working out, at least not so far. So now you're going to need more military action or something. But he didn't get what he wanted out of the gate a week in. So Iran is digging its heels in. Was he anticipating that? Was he expecting that? I don't know. What about rising oil prices? Is the Strait of Hormuz open? The United States is providing reinsurance, right? And I kind of misspoke to some degree on a video that I watched that was sent to me yesterday. It was I don't know who the live streamer was. I've never seen or heard from her before, but she ended her video saying, "Welcome to the New World Order." And then I thought about it overnight, and I thought, I think I'm misinterpreting what that live streamer is saying. I took that statement at the end of her video, and I don't have to run it here tonight, but I took that as though she was saying that Trump is trying to usher in the New World Order by taking over the insurance industry out of London, which is a niche insurance business for shipping companies. I'm not sure that's exactly what she meant. The point that I'm making here is, I think that just by saying "Welcome to the New World Order" at the end of her video is a reference to this is the New World Order, and Trump is already part of it. We are watching it in action right now. It is emerging. It's not that he's creating it. It's already created. It's already happening. Look right in front of you. It's happening right now. And I think that that is largely true. This is Trump trying to force feed the New World Order to the world. And that New World Order, is it a one world government? It may well be. Because while we're seeing this effort to divide the world up into spheres of dominance, right, in this new geopolitical order, I've said before, there's no honor among thieves. The deal is supposed to be that Russia is sort of in league with Trump, that they've supported him to help get him elected. And Xi in China is part of all of this. And they sort of just stay out of each other's backyards while the three of them end up sort of ruling their spheres of dominance. But now you're seeing Trump doing all of this in the Middle East and attacking a Middle Eastern country, Iran, which is not really in the Western sphere of dominance, is it? No, it isn't. And this is putting the United States at odds or at issue with Russia, because Iran is a Russian ally. But you know, the weird thing in all of this is that nothing is as it seems. Strangely, there has been a big winner in all of this. And you know who it is? At least in the early stages, it appears Russia is the big winner because of this war. Here, I'll bring up this article. This is Tonight Time with their report. Isn't that weird? What Donald Trump does in Iran benefits Russia. A Navy vessel is seen sailing in the Strait of Hormuz, a vital waterway through which much of the world's oil and gas passes. On March 1st, 2 ships were attacked in the Strait of Hormuz. March 1st, Maritime Security Agency said, as Iran pressed on second day, blah, blah, blah. The war in Iran has killed hundreds of civilians, displaced hundreds of thousands more. And it is because of Trump and what he's done and getting people out into the streets using civilians as pawns, as protesters. That's what led to the 30,000 people ultimately being killed in the streets. You can blame Iran if you want, but it's the United States that encouraged them to go out there, and they didn't arm them. They didn't do anything to support those people. They were cannon fodder, ultimately, for the IRGC. So point your finger of blame at, where you will, but actions have consequences. It says here, Russia has emerged from the first week of the U.S.-Israeli attacks on Iran as an early winner, seemingly able to profit from the secondary economic and geopolitical effects of the war, while others bear the costs. Oh, yes, Russia is one of the few nations that has maintained a friendly relationship with Tehran. Moscow condemned the U.S. and Israeli attacks on Iran February 28th, calling it a pre-planned and unprovoked act of armed aggression against a sovereign and independent UN member state. Kind of true, even though you're reaching back into the past in order to justify what you're doing today because of previous actions taken by Iran against the United States and other countries. Not good stuff. It's all bad. In a statement from Russia's Foreign Affairs Ministry posted Telegram, Vladimir Putin similarly criticized the killing of Iran's supreme leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, as a cynical murder. But while it may stand to lose a powerful ally in the region, Moscow may also benefit in the short term, analysts say. They're benefiting from the rising oil prices because Russia needs the oil revenue. They continue to sell oil, including to places like China, and the higher oil prices benefit Russia. Putin and his advisors have likely determined, it says here, that the war in Iran serves Russia's interests in the short term, higher energy prices, global distraction from a Ukraine war that Putin is not ready to settle, and America at risk of entrapment in another Middle Eastern quagmire. That coming from Pearson. That is Robert Pearson, non-resident senior fellow at the Eurasia program at the Foreign Policy Research Institute, a nonpartisan think tank based in Philadelphia. In other words, in for a penny, in for a pound, and it ain't gonna go smoothly because these things never freaking do. It's war, and you never know what you're gonna get in this evil box of chocolates. Stay with me. More coming up.
Brightleaf Innovations is excited to offer our newest investment opportunity, the Turn Easy Bed Storage Solution.
Turns with a touch, spins all the way around. Every little thing you need is easy to be found. No more clutter, no more mess on the floor. Just spin it, reach it, you don't search anymore. Turn easy bed, spin your world around. Storage made simple, the best you found. Shelves your way, keep the mess away. Charge it, store it, night or day. Custom shelves for your books or your tech, cozy space for your treasures to protect, built-in power when you need to recharge, smart design that makes your bedroom feel large. Turn Brightleaf Innovations. Proudly Canadian and patent pending in North America. Turn Easy Bed transforms how you live.
To learn more about this innovative new product idea, an exciting investment opportunity, call 519-784-0222 or visit brightleafinnovations.com.
I remember those Gulf Wars. I remember the oil wells as the Iraqi forces retreated. They set all the oil wells on fire. It created so much blackness, it just blacked out the sun. It was an environmental disaster. I remember the news coverage, like watching a football game. Then they were like, you got to bring in Red Adair, Red Adair, Red Adair, Red Adair, Red Adair. Texas oil firefighter dude. They brought in Red Adair. Became an iconic Gulf War superhero. They brought him in to extinguish the blazes that just were like unbelievable. They were like, it was like hell itself, spewing fire out these orifices in the earth, belching black toxic crap into the atmosphere. That's what I thought of this morning as we received these reports of black rain in Iran because the oil infrastructure is being attacked in Iran, setting it ablaze, as we showed you last night. Massive fires. So we showed you the fires last night, this morning, overnight, time zone difference, of course. We're getting reports just like this about oil from the sky.
This is what Tehran is waking up to this morning. The sky above the city is covered in very thick black clouds. You can see that everywhere. That's the west of the city over there, and this is the north of the city. Normally, if you look to that direction, you could actually see the Alborz Mountains, but now all of that is also covered in clouds. That comes after major airstrikes in the south and the west of the city happened last night, where oil installations were hit, oil storage facilities. Apparently also a refinery might have been hit as well. And now you can see this morning that the sky is still very dark. We saw thick black plumes of smoke in the sky yesterday. There were massive fires in the south of the city. But I want to show you something else, because it's also raining. But you can see that the rain water is actually black, also saturated, it appears, with oil. And then if we look over there, you can see that the water that's running down here also is black. So that's what's coming down this morning, this sort of oil-filled rain that we have right now on the Iranian capital after those strikes took place.
Taking it in stride, this is what the strikes look like. This is Iran's largest oil refinery, as I understand it, on fire.
نابود کرد. این داره خودش میتونه دیگه یکی منبعهای نفت دارن.
Unbelievable. Hell on earth is what that looks like. Like, seriously, it looks like hell on earth. More rain from the sky as a result. Share this with you. Black sky.
I want to show you something, because after those fires raged, there was actually rain here in Tehran this morning. And you can see here, because this is a white car, that the rain is actually apparently saturated with oil. You can see on my finger that it's completely blackened, and that's something that's been coming down for the better part of this morning. So of course that's also a concern for folks here in Tehran, that there's this rain that came down that seems to be saturated with oil.
You know, when I started seeing this stuff, I couldn't help but feel like it was somehow prophetic, you know. It certainly feels apocalyptic after these strikes on these oil refining facilities in Tehran. So now you're getting this toxic, acidic rain falling all over the city and other parts of Iran. The Iranian Red Crescent says these fires can lead to acid rain that is dangerous for the skin and the lungs. And that's why people living in Tehran tonight are being advised to stay indoors, because you're going to breathe that stuff in. Do you remember the acid rain concerns back in the 1970s? It was high sulfur content, essentially, that was, we were told at the time, was killing our lakes in Canada, turning pristine, clean lakes into pristine, clear, clean lakes where the pH levels rose because of the acidic content from coal-fired energy facilities and other industry that spewed carbon emissions, and specifically highly acidic carbon emissions, into the atmosphere, and then it was falling back down as rain, and it was killing everything in the lakes. Some lakes, we were told at the time, were actually going dead, and there was some real truth to that. I witnessed some of that myself back in those days. Environmental concerns addressed largely, though, finally through new regulations and scrubbing technology put on smokestacks. Just a little journey back into the past to give you some perspective on this stuff. And again, just bring up this to show you another image. Look at the smoke. Well, so much for all the efforts to save the environment and stop climate change. Like, what is the point when you do something like that? It's like everything that is done to save the environment over here is undone with a military action spanning just a few days. And yet somehow I can tell you that Mother Nature will find a way to heal itself, herself. Don't despair. At least that's my view on it. I opened tonight's program with this. And I will plead against him with pestilence and with blood, and I will rain upon him and upon his bands and upon the many people that are with him an overflowing rain and great hailstones, fire and brimstone. You see the passage. A reference to end times prophecies. Recently, there was a blood rain incident that people have been citing in Iran that they view as prophetic. Some people looking for deeper meaning in all of this. I'm going to come back to that at the end of the program. I'm going to share something with you that will be the most important thing of this broadcast at the end of the broadcast, tied in to those prophecies. Is there a direct a prophecy that addresses this specifically? I don't know if you can make that connection, but that certainly seems to be related, or relevant might be a better word. Looking back, looking ahead. Some see everything going on over there as an opportunity for change. Trump said yesterday on Air Force One, he said, I'm paraphrasing maybe a little, but this is basically what he said. When all this is over, the world's going to be a much safer place. Strangely, and I don't feel safer. The other thing is I'm a friend of this channel and a friend of mine has been sending me material. He lives out in Alberta. I'm going to come to that too, related to this. I was watching some of his material, and he says that the United States under President Trump keeps us safe in Canada. And, the United States keeps the world safe. And what the hell is that all about? I have to tell you, I've never in my entire life as a Canadian have I ever felt more unsafe as I feel right now. How about you? Do you feel safe tonight? Do you feel as a Canadian safe? Do you feel like President Trump is protecting us? Well, Jamil Jivani, member of parliament, conservative, says President Trump brought back that message, right? President Trump loves us. President Trump loves you. That's his message to us. But I don't feel so loved. I don't feel so safe. I feel like I'm getting punched in the face half the time as a Canadian, and I don't feel safer because of what's going on over in the Middle East, I have to say. It's not that I'm not supportive of the United States, and I'm certainly not supportive of the Iranian regime because of their oppressive policies and because of the way they've attacked other countries and their sponsorship of terrorism and the violence they employ. But I don't feel safer. I don't like the way this is being done. That's my editorial comment at this portion of the program. Like it or not, I'm not into it. Because we're seeing already, I think that this isn't really going exactly the way President Trump and Pete Hegseth had planned. I don't think so anyway. But who the hell knows? We're not really being told what the plan is. But then, Rick, you shouldn't be running things because you would and if you're not going to tell people what you're doing, that's not what I'm getting at. You should have at least some sort of a clear goal at the end of all this, if for no other reason than to justify legally what you're doing. And it isn't clear. And if you don't know where you're going, how the hell are you ever going to get there? Let's just bomb them and see what happens. Well, you've seen what's happened. It's not over. It's day 8 now, is it? But some people see opportunities, and there is an opportunity here. If you can grab this tiger by the tail and tame it, come up with a clear objective that will get us to a better place, a safer place, not just Canadians, but the whole world, hopefully, a more stable place. But is that going to happen? I don't know. Seems like it's just widening the cracks maybe between Trump and the UK, maybe more division between NATO countries because of all of this. It's possibly sucking NATO countries into the conflict, into this broader conflict, because now there is justification legally for other nations to join because they've been attacked by Iran. But I think most are trying to resist involvement, having learned lessons from Iraq. And so while those opportunities abroad may be apparent as opportunities because there's no clear goal, not sure we're going to get there, and at home, we're also seeing, I think, a real risk to the freedoms and the rights, the liberties of Americans. Well, what do you mean, Rick? I mean, there's a real threat of an escalation of terrorism on home soil because of all of this. We're seeing ramped up protests. We've seen them in Toronto, in Montreal, not just Iranian protests, but the Palestinian protests, which are, pro-Palestinian protests, and the counter protests from Israelis, and, the pro-Jewish communities, and the threats and the attacks on the synagogues in Toronto, and all of these things ramping up. It's all getting worse in the streets, and that's just in Canada. Now, down in the United States, you have similar things going on, things ramped up. We saw, improvised explosive device outside the home of Zoran Mamdani yesterday, counter accusations about who's going to assassinate who was really at risk, who's the bomb belonged to, and the protests and the clashes. And as a result of all that, what am I talking about? A threat to civil liberties and freedom, because this gives an authoritarian government under the command of Donald Trump the justification it needs to impose more restrictions on rights and freedoms on the home front. Because when you go to war, when the United States goes to war, it opens the door to a whole broad set of powers that the commander-in-chief, that the United States president would otherwise not have. He now has a lot of other tools at his disposal to achieve some political things on the home front that he did not have before. And that means coming after people that he can designate as even domestic terrorists. And that can also result in just more surveillance and loss of freedoms. And isn't it interesting that we have this whole thing with Anthropic going on at the same time? Do you think maybe that's related? I think it might be, because that is also new ground being covered. Unprecedented times these are, with the emergence and concerns about AI and Claude, which was being used by the U.S. military. We're told, there's information out there, that Claude, the Anthropic language model, was used to develop the plan that was used to capture Maduro. And then shortly thereafter, what happens? Hegseth, Trump, they come out, they're concerned about Anthropic, and they're saying, we want full access, no restrictions. Anthropic saying, whoa, wait a minute. You don't use this technology to surveil civilians. And you see, this is the thing. This is why this is important, because that technology, I know so many people out there, especially in the conspiracy crowd, right? There's truth to some of this stuff, because there are cameras everywhere. There are street cameras. I heard references being made to, monitoring where the Iranian leadership was using street cameras and things of that nature. It's mass surveillance. But the problem that governments have with mass surveillance is there's too much information. They can't manage it. They don't have enough people to manage the gigantic, massive flow of data, videos. You can't take the time. You can't monitor everything 24/7 with every single person, hundreds of millions and even billions of people around the world. How do you keep track of them? Well, you can't do it with humans, but you could do it with AI, because that's scalable. And so you see, that changes the nature, not just of the technology, but in the way that our laws will be applied, the way that our laws are used. And so eventually, if you use AI to surveil people, to monitor the surveillance of people using things like facial recognition, then every time you go out of the house, they could track you, because they could use just public video that's out there already. Watch you when you leave your home, where you go, and they can scale the monitoring up using artificial intelligence, because that's not people. That's an infinite workforce that can work 24/7, no breaks, and you can have as much of it as you need, especially if you have an unlimited budget. All you need is the energy to power it all. And then you're never going to escape anything. And when I say that, it means that everything on the home front becomes very restrictive. It means every single law, every law can be enforced. It literally will become 1984 Big Brother. And you'll have to lead a perfect life. Otherwise, you'll be penalized. That's the danger. That's why Anthropic said, whoa, slow down there, big guy. There are some ethical questions to be asked here. You see, it takes things to a new standard. There's the spirit of the law, and then there is the law itself. And let me ask you this. I showed you traffic accidents yesterday on highways in Ontario. I've seen references just recently to the Humboldt school bus tragedy and the penalties surrounding all of that. And that's a big issue in itself. But that's because a truck driver, an inexperienced, improperly trained truck driver, went through a stop sign. Let me ask you this. Have you ever made a mistake driving? Ever? Have you ever gone through a stop sign by accident? Have you ever gone through a red light by accident? You ever made a mistake driving but got away with it? Have you ever been speeding? Have you ever done anything wrong? Have you ever done anything as a driver that in a different moment might have resulted in the death of someone or people, but it didn't, just because in that particular circumstance there wasn't another vehicle there, or there wasn't someone who was on a bicycle, or maybe, so many scenarios, right? But if you have unlimited surveillance, you make a mistake, they're going to nail you on that. And then you're going to nail you on that. And did you go 1 kilometer an hour over the speed limit? You're nailed on that. People get upset because they have photo radar. I understand. I'm not a big fan of it either, because there's the spirit of the law and then there's the law itself. And is the objective to keep people safe and provide a stable, safe society? Or is it about nailing everybody at every opportunity that is present and keeping everybody accountable for everything that they ever do wrong? Are you perfect? Probably not. Show me the man, I'll show you the crime. But using Claude and AI or some other model, maybe it'll be Grok and a derivative of that, the same technology used by the military can be used to just keep everybody in check all the time. And they got a little taste of that with the decapitation of the government in Venezuela. As a result now, this whole thing has deteriorated into a standoff between Anthropic and the Trump administration. The Department of War, which wants to get a hold of that AI technology because they don't want a woke military, and they sure as hell don't with Hegseth. He sure as hell doesn't want a woke AI. They want it lethal. That scares the crap out of me. Meanwhile, I see people running around for so long talking about these concerns, but just they miss the point. They've got you focused on the lamppost outside your house, getting you all freaked out about that. The real issues are over here, folks. Those people are either intentionally or unintentionally misdirecting you so that you're focused on the wrong things to get the wrong outcome in the way that you address these problems. It's not that you can't make a difference, and I'm tired of people telling me there's nothing we can do about it. Yes, there is. There's a lot we can do about it. That's why I'm here. But we're not going to make a difference in a positive way if we keep following the idiots over there when we need to be going right over there. They've got you focused on the wrong stuff. Maybe some things with feathers. More of that next week, apparently, but that's a whole other ball of wax that we're not going to get into tonight. I'm going to take a break because, you see, suddenly the war in Iran takes our rights away. One thing's got nothing to do with the other. Don't worry about it. I'm just paranoid. I'll be fine. More on this when we come back.
Greetings, brave mavericks. Our quest for truth continues. We go beyond fake news. Together we expose propaganda. Together we pull others out of rabbit holes. We are maverick thinkers. We are all unique individuals, defenders of individual rights and freedoms, credible, trusted, grounded in reality. Maverick News, Maverick News. Defending free speech, Donate at freedomreporters.com. Do it now. Tomorrow may be too late. Maverick News. The world is watching.
We're back. So, of course, as I say, the new guy in charge in Iran is not the guy that Trump wants, because I think Trump wanted to get rid of the bad guy so that he could get the bad guy wanted in there so that he could probably do deals with him. But didn't get the bad guy wanted because he probably isn't corrupt enough. So we got more of this in store for sure. And Iran or Israel saying that they're going to now target that guy and take him out. So we'll see. Trump's probably just sitting there in Air Force One, and this is me editorializing just a little bit, saying this is really bad for business. This is bad for business, but maybe not. And again, it's not really clear who's on whose side and who's benefiting and why is all this really being done. And it looks like Russia is against the United States and upset with Trump, but are they really? Because actually, with all of this going on, Russia's benefiting, maybe at the expense of Iran, which is supposed to be their ally, but maybe they don't really give a damn because they're going to make bank. And in the long run, they may even benefit in other ways that we haven't foreseen as of yet. But not only is Russia benefiting, but I think so too is China. And strangely, while you and I are paying more at the pump, and probably going to pay a lot more at the pump in the next week or two, especially if they don't get that Strait of Hormuz operating smoothly again. I don't think the United States government and the oil companies will suffer that much, even though all of this crap is going on in the Middle East, because their prices are just going to jack up. So they're going to make more money per gallon or liter or per barrel than they would otherwise. And they'll end up with the same profit in their pocket at the end of the day for less work. But ultimately, it's got to be fixed, because if it isn't fixed, the people are going to get pissed and they're going to get upset with everything going on, because people only tolerate so much, even from Donald Trump. Eventually, those numbers will catch up with the commander-in-chief, because inflation is on the rise, especially now that oil prices are on the rise. That translates into higher prices across the board for everything, because it doesn't matter what you buy at Walmart. It came by a truck. And before it was on a truck, it was on a plane or a ship. And all of that stuff takes oil to run. Because we don't have enough electric cars yet. And everything with Trump, it seems like everything he does, somehow it circles back and it just seems to benefit these other countries. Call me paranoid. And everything he does of late seems to actually benefit China, because as he beats up the traditional allies of the United States, he's really forcing countries into the wide open arms of China. And I was thinking about it more last night, and as we've been warned, don't you dare make a deal with China and bring in any of them their electric cars. I was thinking, I was on my phone and an ad for Harbor Freight came up because, quite a few years ago, I've been over to the States, and well, since the pandemic, I'm too afeared of the border, and everything going on over there, frankly. So I bought a couple of things at Harbor Freight years ago. So I'm on their mailing list. Harbor Freight tools. It's all from China. And then people flock to the This is just an example. Well, you can talk about Walmart or any of them. So I started looking up the stats on Harbor Freight. 60 to 70% of everything sold at Harbor Freight tools. They're called Harbor Freight because they ship everything in. They're a giant importing company. They import billions and billions of dollars worth of Chinese tools every single year and sell them to Americastanians. And they send me their email. So I'm like, how much of that crap comes? I know it's all from China. Well, maybe not all of it. Yeah, if it's not from China, it's from like Taiwan or Vietnam. I looked it all up. I was going, how much is this, and how much of their inventory is that? And it's not just them; it's Canada too. You go to Canadian Tire or Parts Source, which is the Canadian Tire auto parts chain. And I call it China Tire because all the auto parts now are made in China. Like all the auto parts. You talk about the auto industry and you're worried about buying Chinese cars. Your car's half Chinese now. If you've had any work done on it at all at the local dealership, unless you're buying authentic OEM manufactured parts, it's coming from China, baby. It's all aftermarket stuff, cloned parts, some stuff done under licensing, but it's all coming from China. And these manufacturers, they're using Chinese parts on brand new cars. Even your 57 Chevys, as I've pointed out, as you're restoring these old cars, the body panels for all that sheet metal to replace all the fenders and quarter panels, floor pans, it's all Chinese now. Virtually all of it. You go back 10 years ago, there were still some stamping plants pumping that stuff out for the restoration industry, but it's almost all Chinese now. Can't compete. And then Trump is like, Canada did a deal with China, so 1,000% tariff on everything coming from Canada from now on. And Joseph was on. He says, you got to do business with Europe. Like, yeah, because you guys don't do any business with China. What they do down there in the States with China makes us look like patriotic Americanistanians. Well, I got off on a sidetrack there, but it's all related because this is all about disrupting the whole world order, isn't it? Yes, of course it is, because I remember when the pandemic hit, I went upstairs during the earliest days of the pandemic, and I said to my wife, we're going to war. We are going to war. No question about it. I couldn't see how, couldn't see where, couldn't see when, but I knew. I just could feel we're going to war. And it's just been a progressive march toward that World War III reality ever since. And in fact, we are already at war. It is a third world war. It's just a fifth generation new generation hybrid warfare so far, but it's going kinetic. And this conflict in Iran may be the very conflict that just sets off the whole powder keg, not just Ukraine, but now you've got the situation in Iran involving Israel, Gaza, and it's erupting into chaos, protests, and violence even in the streets, and attacks on synagogues in Canada. Look at what's gone on in Toronto. Another news conference held just today to update people on information with regard to these attacks on a synagogue in the Toronto area. This is from the police website. This was Tuesday, March 3rd, was the initial attack at 2:30 p.m. Deputy Chief Robert Johnson providing an update on firearm discharge. So this was the news conference they held earlier this week to update people on this firearm discharge at Temple Emmanuel Synagogue. And I have that video, but I don't want to show you that one because it's from several days ago. I know there was another news conference held today. I believe this is it here. Or maybe it's this tab. There it is. Yeah. Oh, these things don't have anything to do with us here at home, Rick. Yeah, they do. I know people like, if we just stay out of it and we won't have to deal with it. Yeah, you think so? We're getting sucked in whether we like it or not in one way or another, but we must resist. We will not tolerate it. Police promises relentless probe into GTA synagogue shootings. This is the update from today. Here's the police chief at a news conference earlier today, Chief Myron Demque. I don't know how to pronounce his last name. Sorry. I've been down this road before. Bridget Belton, or whatever. One moment. Call coming in. Let me figure this out. Hang on. I'm going to take a quick break. Be right back.
Greetings, brave mavericks. Our quest for truth continues. We go beyond fake news. Together we expose propaganda. Together we pull others out of rabbit holes. We are maverick thinkers. We are all unique individuals. Defenders of individual rights and freedoms. Credible. Trusted. Grounded in reality. Maverick News. Maverick News. Defending free speech. Free speech. Donate at freedomreporters.com. Do it now. Tomorrow may be too late. Maverick News. The world is watching.
Brightleaf Innovations is excited to offer our newest investment opportunity. The Turn Easy Bed Storage Solution.
Turns with a touch, spins all the way around. Every little thing you need is easy to be found. No more clutter, no more mess on the floor. Just spin it, reach it, you don't search anymore. Treasures to protect, built in power. charge. Smart design that makes your bedroom feel large. Turn easy bed, spin your world around. Storage made simple, the best you found. Shelves your way, keep the mess away. Charge it, store it, night or day. Designed and developed by Brightleaf Innovations. Proudly Canadian and patent pending in North America. Turn Easy Bed transforms how you live.
To learn more about this innovative new product idea and exciting investment opportunity, call 519-784-0222 or visit brightleafinnovations.com.
Okay. Sorry about the interruption. All is well. We put that on hold. We'll talk later, and I'll figure out what that was all about. So, later, because we have other stuff to cover tonight. And again, I apologize for the little bit of a disjointed interruption, but that's okay. I needed a little bit of a break there anyway, because we've got escalation surrounding this whole thing, not just on the home front, but overseas as well. Where we're seeing Israel ordering residents south of the Litani River, Lebanon, to evacuate as it intensifies operations against Hezbollah. Israeli strikes have killed nearly 400 people in Lebanon alone. It's spilling over. This conflict, attacks have spread beyond Israel and Iran. Strikes in Persian Gulf countries, and the first reported deaths now in Saudi Arabia. And President Donald Trump again told reporters he believes Iran is behind that strike on that elementary school that killed at least 168 people. The preliminary findings from the Trump administration itself indicated it is increasingly likely a U.S. munition was responsible for the strike. But did he lie? Time will tell. Maybe. Hundreds of people have been killed across the Middle East. Again, well over 1,000, I think, at this point. And it's just ramping up. This is not new. This is just a continuation. This goes back to 1979 and well before that. Do you remember? Are you old enough to remember? Probably not. The Iran hostage crisis, 1979. That's still in memories, like fresh in the memories of so many people. Somewhere, I don't know what that message means. Hang on, I'm getting more messages. This could be important. I don't know. I'll take another short break and I'll try and figure out what this is about.
The sharing of biased and
False news has become all too common on social media.
More alarmingly, some media outlets simply aren't true without checking facts first.
Unfortunately, some members of the media use their platforms to push their own personal bias and agenda to control exactly what people think, and this is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
In an ocean of lies a century deep, the truth awaits. Choose not the red pill. Choose not the blue pill. For both are an illusion. Discover the power of M. The power of individuality. We are mavericks. We are the way to the light. Fear not the storm. Join our quest for truth. Truth will set you free. Maverick News. The world is watching.
Okay. I'm just going to continue. If you want to figure out what it is I'm talking about, just stay tuned. back to everything I prepared tonight, if I can get my head back wrapped around it. Okay, so this not new. I'm old enough. I remember the Iran hostage crisis, 1979, lasted from 79 to 81. I would sit in front of the television every night, like all Americans and Canadians, and they were counting the days that U.S. hostages were held captive in Iran. It was a major international incident and diplomatic standoff between the United States and Iran. It began November 4th, 1979. Iranian militants stormed the U.S. embassy in Tehran, took American personnel hostage. The crisis lasted 444 days. They would run on the newscasts, the national newscasts, graphics every night with how many days the Americans were held in captivity. Every day, the number went up by one. And they were held there until January 20th, 1981. And it had profound effects on U.S. politics, foreign policy, and long-term U.S.-Iran relations. The roots of all this trace way back to Iran's Islamic Revolution, 1978, 1979, which ended up in the overthrow of the pro-Western monarch, the Shah, Mohammad Reza Pahlavi. Everybody just remembers him as the Shah. He had been ruling there with strong U.S. support for decades, and he had very close ties to the CIA. Notably, there was a 1953 coup that restored him to power after ousting a democratically elected prime minister. But hey, we're going to bomb him into democracy over there. Democracy is not the goal. Control is the goal. Many Iranians viewed the Shah as a U.S. puppet who suppressed dissent and enriched elites while ordinary people suffered. But the spin that's put on it on the American side is that it was a very Western culture. Women were allowed to wear mini skirts. Well, all that's kind of true. But then that led to backlash because Iran is not the United States. But there were a lot of lies told at the time that led to the Islamic Revolution. People there were being told by those who were in support of the rebels of the day that they were going to bring democracy, an Islamic theocracy style democracy. The Ayatollah Khomeini, the revolution's leader, returned from exile and established an Islamic republic hostile to the U.S., labeling America the Great Satan, which survives today, that label. Anti-American sentiment ran high. The U.S. embassy at the time seen as a symbol of interference. So this led to the hostage crisis. November 4th, 79. Bunch of militant students calling themselves the Muslim street followers of the Imam's line, with Khomeini's tacit support, overran the U.S. embassy in Tehran. They seized 66 Americans, diplomat staff, and others. Most were held captive, although 13 women and African Americans were released shortly after, and one more later for medical reasons. That left 52 Americans in captivity for most of the crisis. And the students, they demanded the Shah's extradition to Iran for trial, an apology for U.S. interference, and an end to U.S. influence in Iran. The Ayatollah endorsed the takeover, turned it into a symbol of defiance against America. The hostages endured isolation, blindfolding, mock executions. Pretty sure that's a freaking war crime, and psychological pressure. There were reports of physical torture as well. How much depends on the story. U.S. responses came through diplomatic pressure. There were failed negotiations, economic sanctions. Jimmy Carter was the president. You think this is new, what's going on over there? You think this is going to be easy? This is why I'm so nervous about everything that I'm seeing going on with Trump. Well, just get Hegseth over there and inject a little testosterone into them F-35s and bomb them back to the Stone Age. Then that'll fix everything. We don't have to do nothing. We don't got to put any boots on the ground. We'll get the Kurds to go in, and that'll fix it all. Yeah, they're probably not going to go, dude, because they were betrayed in Iraq. By a previous administration. Here's some video from the U.S. National Archives. If you were alive at the time, maybe you remember. If you were young like me, it might be fresh enough in your mind that makes you really scared of everything you're seeing now. Or maybe this is all new. Hope this helps.
Iran, 1979. Demonstrators invaded the American embassy in Tehran. Demanding the return of the Shah, they took embassy personnel as hostages in violation of international law. Treaty signed by the United States and Iran state that both countries will observe the principle of diplomatic immunity, a principle which protects foreign representatives and embassy property. All appeals to free the hostages were denied by the government of Iran. The refusal constituted an unprecedented breach of the rules of normal diplomatic behavior. Societies, nations, have always formulated laws to maintain order, to prevent anarchy and chaos. In similar fashion, nations have created international laws, among them rules providing for safety of their diplomatic missions abroad. Diplomatic immunity is a widely accepted principle. It assures protection for embassy personnel, even when the sending and receiving nations do not enjoy friendly relations. A violation of international law is extremely rare. The taking of American diplomatic representatives as hostages by Iranian students with the acquiescence of the Iranian government is a situation to be examined for the meaning it has for the rest of the world. From the beginning of the crisis, the United States has reacted with restraint, despite the outrage against its representatives abroad. Speaking from...
Yeah. But see, the thing with Trump is that he's made it very clear he doesn't care about international laws anymore. There are no rules with Trump. They've thrown that playbook right out the window. That's why you've got cracks between NATO countries, between the United States and its allies. This is a huge freaking problem. It's not just what you do, it's how you do it. And what Trump is doing is he's just saying, we're just going to go in, we're just going to do it, we're just going to start bombing them back to the Stone Age. We don't give a damn. Might makes right. That's it. No more rules. Even Russia's calling for freaking rules tonight. It's bad. Maybe you'll get a good outcome, but so far it looks like no. Looks like the plan's already running off the rails to me. I hope I'm wrong, because, again, I do love the United States. I don't want bad things to happen. I want good things to happen. And yeah, the world would be a better place, I think, if maybe Iran was a more stable country. But this isn't working. At least not yet. Let it play out, I guess. Don't have any choice now. And then on the home front, the politics continue, right? With this kind of stuff. Ian telling me that, he saw more pro-Palestine protests in the streets up there.
Thank you! Thank you! Thank you! Thank you! Thank you! Thank you!
In Canada.
Thank you! Thank you! Thank you!
Yeah. I don't know if the thing on the is going to help that. It's just making it worse here, at least for the moment. They have the right to do that. That's all. Whatever. Just stay peaceful. I'm just saying this situation is not calming things down. So I'm worried. Stay peaceful. Everybody stay peaceful. That's the thing. Stay peaceful. Don't run out into the middle of these protests. Stay away. Bad to go over there, in my opinion. Nothing but trouble coming. Nothing but trouble. Because Trump's not getting what he wanted. Now, one of the options for Trump seems to be maybe, I've mentioned this guy before, not really on my radar too much, but there's some things here that connect more dots. This is Reza Pahlavi. This is a descendant, I believe this is is it the son of the Shah? He's sort of a self-proclaimed leader in waiting for Iran. He's a semi-regular commentator, guest on some of the U.S. networks, especially networks like Fox. Here's his X account. Now he has been positioning himself to form a transitionary government in Iran for quite a long time. And he's in exile. He's living in the United States. He has a direct tie to President Trump. Now, he has not been anointed by Trump, and it's not clear if he even will be the chosen one to form a new government, or at least help in the transition of a new government in Iran. But he's been out there for quite some time, and he's got this address that he posted on March 6th, and I believe he was just on 60 Minutes. Again, I'm not going to run that because of copyright issues, but I will share this with you. This is his most recent message on his social media.
The Islamic Republic has launched missiles at the United Arab Emirates, Bahrain, Qatar, Kuwait, Oman, Jordan, Iraq, and Saudi Arabia. It is targeting our Arab neighbors. These violations of their sovereignty are unacceptable, and we condemn them. But this is nothing new. This is who the Islamic Republic has always been, and this is why it must end. For nearly 5 decades, this terrorist regime has sown chaos and bloodshed across our region. It propped up Assad, turning Syria into a graveyard. It planted Hezbollah as a state within a state in Lebanon. It armed the Houthis to destabilize the Arabian Peninsula. It empowered militias in Iraq to undermine Iraqi sovereignty. It attacked the economic hubs of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia and the United Arab Emirates. None of this has ever been the desire of the Iranian people, but rather that of a regime occupying our country. Now, however, the landscape has fundamentally shifted. Assad is gone. Hezbollah has been decimated. The regime's military nuclear program has been set back. Its economy is in a free fall. The pillars of this regime's aggression are crumbling. The Iranian people have paid the price in blood to reach this moment. The regime massacred tens of thousands of my compatriots in just 2 days, but it didn't break the people. Instead, the regime itself is breaking. Today, history reminds us of our future potential. Before the revolution, Iran worked closely with Arab leaders, from King Faisal to Sheikh Zayed to King Hussein to President Sadat. In Oman, my father helped Sultan Qaboos defend his country against insurgency. We were true partners then. We will be true partners again. The Iranian people have called on me to lead the transition after the regime is gone. I have accepted that responsibility. Part of their great mandate to me is to return our nation and our foreign relations to normalcy. I will do exactly that. My commitment is to ensure the transition is orderly, the country is stabilized, and Iranians determine their future through the ballot box. We will not repeat the mistakes of past transitions. We will avoid de-Baathification scenarios and maintain as many bureaucrats and public servants in transition as possible. Iranians have made their choice at an enormous price. Now I ask our friends in the Arab world to join us, to prepare to recognize and engage our transitional government. We will rebuild our nation not for expansion, but to serve the Iranian people. We will base our diplomatic relations not on exportation of ideology, but on mutual respect and shared interest. We will reintegrate into the regional and global economy to increase prosperity for the citizens of all of our nations. Standing with the Iranian people is not charity. It is a strategic investment in making our region one of the most stable, secure, and prosperous in the world. Together, we can build a Middle East our children will be proud to inherit. Take this new path with us.
So the people of Iran can vote for anybody they want to form the next government as long as it's somebody Donald Trump likes. And that guy has a direct line to President Trump. Trump has said, though, that, well, yeah, maybe he could be the guy, but he prefers an insider because this guy is living in the States. He's had limited ability to sort of organize or be involved in political things on the ground in Iran. And while he no doubt has some residual support because, of course, of his heritage to the Shah back in 79 and prior, he's not been living there. So, but he's in Trump's orbit and his organization certainly in Trump's orbit. And here's the dot to connect. You know what's kind of weird about it? Maybe it's not weird, but it's of note. One of the main groups or organizations that he is involved with, do you know what it's called? Oh, hang on a second. I need to just pivot back for a second. Alberta separatism, right? Just a sidebar. What's the name of that group out there? Oh, Alberta Prosperity Project. APP. Alberta Prosperity Project. Yeah, that's right. Oh, yeah. So back to the main road. You know what his organization is called? The Iran Prosperity Project. Get out of town. No way, Rick. Really? Yeah, it's true. No, come on. Couldn't be. It is. IPP, APP, ABC, XYZ, NBC, CIA, FSB, IPP, APP. What a coincidence. Yeah, that guy's been to Mar-a-Lago. So is Daniel Smith. You know, isn't that weird? Oh, you know, they have branding and a campaign slogan and a whole thing. I'm talking about the Canadian side. The, what is that? MCGA, Make Canada Great Again. They got hats and everything. You can get them from Rebel News, I think. MCGA, YMCA, ABC, MCGA, MIGA. Oh, yeah, that's the one. Make Iran Great Again. Yeah, they actually have that too. Yeah. Good. It's just a coincidence. Now, I can't say that they're all, completely intersected, but you can see that there is a trend, some commonalities there. Look what happened in Iran. 30,000 people mowed down. You want to go out to the next protest and make Canada great again? Well, you got the pro-Israel, pro-MAGA, pro-APP media outlet out there cheerleading and stirring things up maybe just a little bit. Well, the other side marches in the streets. Which side you going to pick? Which tribe are you part of? Are you starting to connect the dots? There is something you can do about it. You can become aware, wake the hell up, realize that a whole bunch of people have been lying to you, not just the mainstream media, the independent media too, maybe even more so. Corruption. It's everywhere, all over the place. Well, those guys are lying to me, so those guys must be telling me the truth. No, it's not black and white. These things rarely are. Well, they lied. That's the truth. No, it's not. No, somebody sent me some stuff today, and I looked at it, and they were trying, the whole premise was that the mainstream media is set up to just lie to us. That's not really true either. There's some of that goes on. My message back was simply this: truth is elusive, and it is rarely absolute. Wisdom has more value. Mainstream media doesn't lie to you all the time. Independent media doesn't lie to you all the time. Sometimes they do. If they lied to you all the time, they'd just get caught with their pants down all the time. No, they have to inject the lies into a jelly-filled donut with truth surrounding it. And when you get that creamy, gooey, ooey, sweet center, that's the lie. Because that's utopia, and that doesn't exist. Hang in there. I've got the most important part still ahead.
Someone very profoundly once said many years ago that if fascism ever comes to America, it'll come in the name of liberalism.
Well, I think it's time we ask ourselves if we still know the freedoms that were intended for us by the Founding Fathers. If we lose freedom here, there's no place to escape to. This is the last stand on Earth.
The entire world is watching.
Every dictator, every crazy dictator in the world is watching. The world is watching. On TV,
the entire world is watching.
On social media.
But the entire world is watching, and yes, they are seeing what we have apparently bravely been willing to say that others are thinking.
Stand for freedom. Literally stand for freedom. Let's get this done. The entire world is watching.
We're at war with the most dangerous enemy that has ever faced mankind in his long climb from the swamp to the stars.
Maverick News.
Maverick News. Maverick News. Let me have more control of my own destiny.
The world is watching.
Back to 1979 we go. The Iran hostage crisis. Negotiations dragged on all the way through 1980. The numbers kept going up on the television screen every night when I sat there, watched the CBS Evening News and other newscasts. 6 o'clock. By late 80, Iran, facing its war with Iraq, starting in September of 80, was under economic strain. They showed a willingness to deal. There was something called the Algiers Accords that were signed in 1981. The remaining 52 hostages were released on January 20th, 1981, minutes after Ronald Reagan's inauguration as president. Because it was a situation where Carter was seen as weak as the president, and he couldn't get those hostages released. And the American people put intense pressure on him at the time to take military action. I talked about it last night. Carter later said the reason he didn't take military action was because he knew if he did that, the remaining 52 hostages would be killed. And he wanted to avoid that. You might think that he wanted to avoid that so that he could get reelected, but it was the opposite. I've always been highly critical of Carter because I always said he was, weak. And I would say hindsight is 20/20, but hindsight is only 20/20 when the journey is complete, and this journey is not complete. So I would say my assessment as we go through this now, my assessment now of Jimmy Carter is in revision. Subject to revision as I review all of this with what I'm seeing in through the windshield, not just in the rearview mirror. Because as I say, this is not new. This is a continuation of everything that happened back in 79 and back even in the 1950s and even before that. Because it hasn't been resolved. It's just a tug of war. Power game. Even, people put tons of pressure on Carter at the time to take military action. I told you this last night, and I have for you the clip. I found the clip of Carter, who years later now says that he could have taken military action, and if he had at the time, he probably would have been reelected. This is years later. I believe this is CNBC interview.
Even your wife, Rosalind, was encouraging you to take action. Was it hard to not take everyone's advice around you, even your wife's?
Yes. Well, I could have been reelected if I had taken military action against Iran, but it's shown that I was strong and resolute and manly and so forth. But I think if I could have wiped Iran off the map with the weapons that we had. But in the process, a lot of innocent people would have been killed, probably including hostages. And so I stood up against all that advice, and then eventually my prayers were answered, and every hostage came home safe and free. And so I think I made the right decision in retrospect, but it was not easy at the time.
I think he was incredibly unfairly judged. I mean, he was ahead of his time when he was in the White House, and I think if it hadn't been for the Iran hostage situation, he would have had a second term, and I think most likely would have been as well respected for his time in office as for his time outside the office.
So there's more to that. Here, you know what? I'll put the link to that entire piece in the Rumble chat. Oh, I have to bring it up. I don't have you up yet. So opinions strongly divergent, divide, a lot of division on the Carter presidency. Super nice guy, I'll tell you that. Let me go here and here. I want to put that link to that video up for anybody that wants to see it, so you get the full context of everything in it. There we go. And I'll just dump it straight in. Hello, Maverick family. Looking in the chat here briefly. Hello, everybody. So we're going to connect more dots. Reagan comes into power, right? And I've always viewed Reagan as being one of the best presidents ever. Conservative. Contrary to what our friend Joseph Leonard says, he did not love tariffs. And contrary to what President Trump is lying about, Reagan was against tariffs. Not to say that he did not use them, but he was always reluctant to and made it very clear that he didn't like it. So Reagan comes into power, right? And you think this is like, well, just that's over there, and then what goes on over in the Middle East is that thing, and then what goes on in Central America and Mexico and all these other Central American countries, that's different. No, even back in the 80s, this stuff all connects, just like now. You've got Trump doing stuff in Venezuela. You've got him blockading Cuba. You have this situation in the Middle East. He's putting pressure on Greenland. He's putting pressure on Canada. He's destroyed relationships with European countries that we're told a couple of nights ago we have to do more business with them, but Trump doesn't like them either. He seems to be cozying up to Vladimir more than anything, even though it's just all this stuff ties together in a strange way now. But if you go back to the 80s, there was, after Reagan came into power, he was seen as a stronger president, especially because those hostages were released as he was being sworn in. So some sort of deal was made with Reagan, as I said, allowing for the release of those hostages. And it did cost Carter his presidency because there was also a failed rescue attempt, as I recall, that Carter approved. It resulted in a military helicopter crashing. There was video of all of that. It resulted in an embarrassment from which Carter could not recover. And it paved the way for the election of Ronald Reagan. But, Reagan talked tough on hostages. That's where the whole, we don't negotiate with terrorists, that whole idea really gelled and took root in a substantial and permanent way in American culture. And yet the hypocrisy was there. And we're seeing it, I think replaying in the Trump administration, because it's all about, anti-drugs and got to clean things up and against communism. That was kind of the whole playbook from Reagan as well. That, and honestly, during Trump 1.0, that's one of the main reasons I thought Trump was going to be one of the best presidents, if not the best president ever, because he had embraced a lot of that jargon. But then the Iran-Contra scandal happened. I remember the magazine covers and the television coverage of the hearings with Colonel Oliver North. It was one of the biggest political controversies of the Ronald Reagan presidency. Was the biggest, really, I think. And that unfolded a few years later, between 85 and 86. It involved, here are the dots, secret illegal operations that violated U.S. law and contradicted Reagan's public policies. At its core, senior Reagan administration officials secretly sold weapons to Iran, the very country that's accused of being a terrorist nation, kind of is, and you're not supposed to negotiate with them. But here's Reagan, who's taking this hard line with Iran, but his policies led to the sale of American weapons to Iran. And they used the profits from that to then fund anti-government rebels in Nicaragua. Back we go to the drug cartels. Reagan strongly opposed the spread of communism. in Central America. And so in Nicaragua, the leftist Sandinista government of the day had taken power in 1979, and the US-backed Contras, which were anti-Sandinista rebels that Reagan called freedom fighters, one man's terrorist is another man's freedom fighter, Congress grew concerned about the war and passed something called the Boland Amendments, which explicitly banned U.S. government funding or military aid to the Contras. Now, at the same time, the U.S. faced this separate crisis in the Middle East. And during the Iran-Iraq War between 1980 and 1988, the U.S. had an arms embargo against Iran because of the 79 Iran hostage crisis and the Iranian Revolution and Iran's support for terrorism. So the Iran-backed Hezbollah militants in Lebanon, yeah, they're involved in all this stuff going on right now too. They were holding 7 American hostages, and Reagan had publicly vowed never to negotiate with terrorists or sell arms to Iran. So now you've got 7 more hostages taken. Well, you've got the strong iron president, Reagan, in office. He's got his own hostage crisis with Hezbollah. Didn't get as much play as the hostage crisis with Carter did, but it was there, and it was a big problem for him. And so here's what happened with the scandal. National Security Council staffers, led by then Lieutenant Colonel Oliver North, with approval from the National Security Advisors Robert McFarlane and later John Poindexter, devised a secret plan to get around both the embargo and the Boland Amendment. In 1985, the U.S., first through Israel, then directly, sold thousands of TOW anti-tank missiles and other weapons to Iran. And they did it. They must have had, like, Trump probably took a page out of the playbook. They sold those weapons at inflated prices. Hello, Ukraine. We're a supplier with the weapons, but Europe's paying and we're going to profit. Iran was supposed to use its influence to free the American hostages in Lebanon. Send the weapons to Iran. They put pressure on Hezbollah, which is their proxy, to get the hostages out. And the extra profits, which amounted to tens of millions of dollars, were then secretly diverted. See, it's like they baked the corruption into the arms sale pie. They budgeted for the corruption. We need this much extra. Okay, we'll pay for that. And then those funds, which were skimmed off the top, were then secretly diverted to bank accounts controlled by a private network called the Enterprise, which was run by retired Air Force General Richard Secord and others. And then it was funneled to the Contras for weapons, and that included training and supplies. Hello, CIA. In total, Iran paid about $48 million for the weapons. Several million of that was then diverted to the Contras, and the operation was kept off the books and hidden even from many top officials, including Secretary of State at the time, George Shultz, who a lot of people have real issues with, right? Especially on the anti-conservative side. But anyway, and there was also Secretary of Defense Caspar Weinberger involved, who both of them opposed it, but it was hidden from them. So I think they still get blamed. So this whole scandal broke out into the open like late 1986. There was a Contra supply plane that was shot down over Nicaragua, and there was a captured American pilot, and he had CIA Contra connections that were then revealed through the media. And then also late 86, around November, a Lebanese magazine published all the details of the secret U.S. arms sale to Iran. Oops. Now, Reagan comes out, then he denies trading arms for hostages. And then he made this televised address in 86, and he later admitted in 86 that to the arms sales, but insisted they were not a hostage deal. And then a few weeks later, the administration confirmed the two operations were linked, and then this public outrage exploded. Eventually, Reagan appointed the Tower Commission to investigate it. It concluded that Reagan didn't know anything about the diversion of funds to the Contras, but he had approved the arms sales and failed to properly supervise his staff. And then, being the great actor that he is, as all of this came out, he eventually did this other national address in 1987 after this whole review. And during this review, we had Oliver North testifying. He became, for some, a national hero, saying that he did it because he's a patriot. He admitted lying to Congress and destroying documents, but he's still seen by some as a hero, to others as someone who is guilty of doing something very corrupt and wrong. And it was a huge embarrassment for Reagan. But as I say, Reagan was an actor, kind of like Trump. And Reagan's a better actor. Trump's a reality show star. A little bit different. But man, what a great performance Reagan gives in 1987 with this word salad of it's eloquent, carefully crafted. I have it here. Video from the 1987 address from the Reagan Presidential Library. And no, it's not taken out of context. I'm going to let this whole damn thing run because I don't want to be accused of what Doug Ford was accused of and running something out of context. So you're going to get the whole darn thing. It's not very long, but this is the way it was in 87 when Reagan, caught with his hand in the Contra cookie jar, so to speak, tries to come clean with the American public while not coming completely clean. You know, there's that old phrase, and I think it really it really came in handy in 87 for Reagan, a thing called plausible deniability. Oops, this is the wrong one. Let me come down. Here we go.
Fellow Americans, I have spoken to you from this historic office on many occasions and about many things. The power of the presidency is often thought to reside within this Oval Office. Yet it doesn't rest here. It rests in you, the American people, and in your trust. Your trust is what gives a president his powers of leadership and his personal strength. And it's what I want to talk to you about this evening. For the past 3 months, I've been silent on the revelations about Iran. And you must have been thinking, well, why doesn't he tell us what's happening? Why doesn't he just speak to us as he has in the past when we've faced troubles or tragedies? Others of you, I guess, were thinking, what's he doing hiding out in the White House? Well, the reason I haven't spoken to you before now is this. You deserve the truth. And as frustrating as the waiting has been, I felt it was improper to come to you with sketchy reports or possibly even erroneous statements, which would then have to be corrected, creating even more doubt and confusion. There's been enough of that. I paid a price for my silence in terms of your trust and confidence, but I've had to wait, as you have, for the complete story. That's why I appointed Ambassador David Abshire as my special counselor to help get out the thousands of documents to the various investigations. And I appointed a special review board, the Tower Board, which took on the chore of pulling the truth together for me and getting to the bottom of things. It has now issued its findings. I'm often accused of being an optimist, and it's true. I had to hunt pretty hard to find any good news in the board's report. As you know, it's well stocked with criticisms, which I'll discuss in a moment, but I was very relieved to read this sentence. The board is convinced that the president does indeed want the full story to be told. And that will continue to be my pledge to you as the other investigations go forward. I want to thank the members of the panel, former Senator John Tower, former Secretary of State Edmund Muskie, and former National Security Advisor Brent Scowcroft. They have done the nation, as well as me personally, a great service by submitting a report of such integrity and depth. They have my genuine and enduring gratitude. I've studied the board's report. Its findings are honest, convincing, and highly critical, and I accept them. And tonight, I want to share with you my thoughts on these findings and report to you on the actions I'm taking to implement the board's recommendations. First, let me say I take full responsibility for my own actions and for those of my administration. As angry as I may be about activities undertaken without my knowledge, I am still accountable for those activities. As disappointed as I may be in some who serve me, I am still the one who must answer to the American people for this behavior. And as personally distasteful as I find secret bank accounts and diverted funds, well, as the Navy would say, this happened on my watch. Let's start with the part that is the most controversial. A few months ago, I told the American people I did not trade arms for hostages. My heart and my best intentions still tell me that's true, but the facts and the evidence tell me it is not. As the Tower Board reported, what began as a strategic opening to Iran deteriorated in its implementation into trading arms for hostages. This runs counter to my own beliefs, to administration policy, and to the original strategy we had in mind. There are reasons why it happened, but no excuses. It was a mistake. I undertook the original Iran initiative in order to develop relations with those who might assume leadership in a post-Khomeini government. It's clear from the board's report, however, that I let my personal concern for the hostages spill over into the geopolitical strategy of reaching out to Iran. I asked so many questions about the hostages' welfare that I didn't ask enough about the specifics of the total Iran plan. Let me say to the hostage families, we have not given up. We never will. And I promise you we'll use every legitimate means to free your loved ones from captivity.
Nicaragua. Iran. The IPP, the APP. Make Iran great again. Make Canada great again. Make America great again. I'm sure none of it is connected at all. It's just all coincidental, right? It's not over. Reagan said that, you know, he wanted to make sure we got the full story, the whole story. That was his commitment. It's not, the story is not over. Still playing out. Just a new guy in the White House. Don't know where it's going to end up. I know we're kind of wound up for a while in the 80s. See, some of them Contras, they had ties to drug lords. You're dealing in Nicaragua. So not only were they trading arms for hostages while protecting the president with plausible deniability, you really think he didn't know what was going on? You can make your own decision. Maybe he was right, maybe he was wrong. People have their own assessments. But back to Nicaragua. Not only was Reagan, the Reagan administration, and the military and the CIA trading arms for hostages in Lebanon with Hezbollah, Iranian proxy, they were supporting the Contras as a rebel force to overthrow a communist regime in Nicaragua, the Sandinistas. But some of those Contras had direct ties to drug lords, which became a scandal in itself. The CIA connected to some of those Contras. That's why today you see all these allegations that the CIA is guilty of drug smuggling and cocaine smuggling and drug smuggling in general. And that's because it was shown at the time that, yes, sometimes the CIA working with the Contras were just looking the other way while some of these mid-level and lower-level Contras were engaging in drug trafficking and smuggling cocaine straight into the United States. Allegations, there was a whole television series that was done at the time with allegations of these activities fueling the crack epidemic in America, paving the way for it. A lot of investigations about it, a lot of them suggesting that the top level Contra leadership was not aware, was not involved, but this is Nicaragua. And again, if Reagan can get away with plausible deniability on the Iran arms sale, the sales of arms to Iran, do you think that those Contra leaders were maybe able to blanket themselves or shield themselves with some sort of plausible deniability with the CIA? I'm just saying. It gets pretty rich, doesn't it? And now we have Trump with this war on the drug cartels in Mexico and his involvement in El Salvador and the deportations and disappearing people into prisons and other countries where people's rights are completely ignored. No due process for you, or you, or you, or you. And I'm hearing echoes from the past through all of this, only it's amplified now because, at least at the time, Reagan was trying to abide by the international rules-based order. And then when Bush comes along, Bush Jr., Bush Sr., Clinton, they're all still working within the framework of the rules-based international order and the UN, and they're putting together coalitions before they launch attacks into places like Iraq. Even if they were lying their asses off about things like babies and incubators and weapons of mass destruction. But hey, it worked before. Let's maybe give it another spin. I don't know if Iran has developed nuclear weapons and is only, weeks away. Thought there was obliterated, but now apparently it's not. So we got to go back in because they're not giving up. And I don't know. Where's the proof? At least we had a woman who claimed to have eyewitness accounts of babies and incubators, but we're not even getting that now. We're just supposed to trust the guy with all the power and all the nukes and the most powerful military in the world. But now 7 Americans dead already. People wondering, will Canada put boots on the ground? Well, what's the UK doing? Well, they're maybe sending some ships there. Trump's not appreciative at all. Well, we don't need you now because the war's been won. Really? If it's already won, why are you still bombing? If it's won, how come you didn't get your guy in? Maybe things aren't working out quite the way planned. I think we'll learn a lot. We'll find out more this week. 4 to 5 weeks, he says. It'll all be over. 4 to 5 weeks. Do you think those protests in the streets will stop? Do you think these people are going to quit even if the war does end? I don't know. Here we are, all these years after the 79 Iran hostage crisis. Trump says Carney isn't grateful enough, not showing enough appreciation for what the United States keeping us safe. Remember Trump's response at Davos after Carney's speech, where he poked Trump in the eye with his words? And then, like a Sith Lord, that's what came to mind when I saw Trump standing up there. He's like, hey, you don't seem very grateful, Mark, like a mafia Sith Lord. All it was missing was the robe and the blacked out face. And he just, I mean, God, my God, the tone was ominous and threatening and gross. And unappreciative, because it was in 79. The reason there were only 52 hostages is because Canada helped get some Americans out of there, so they didn't have to endure 444 days in captivity. Oh, yes. But even as they made a movie about Canada's involvement and help in the United States, they kind of glossed over the fact that it was Canada that was Canadians in Iran that were instrumental in getting Americans out during the initial stages of the 79 Iran hostage crisis. Gratitude expressed at the time. Not so much the other night when we were told that by a friend that Canada just doesn't do enough. And we're just not there for the United States. I don't know. I think we've done plenty. I think we've spilled a lot of blood as a nation, sometimes for stupid things. Things that are not properly aimed. Things with too much collateral damage. Things that are too political and not virtuous enough. It's war. And in that, we're always looking for deeper meaning. And that's why I brought up this passage as it rains oil in Iran tonight. As promised, I'm saving the most important thing for last this evening. I am searching for deeper meaning in this, but I have yet to find it because it's still too early, I suppose. There are a number of passages I could have used, but nothing really truly addresses this as people look to prophecies and find some sort of meaning in that. Some people saying this is just another step, another indication that we are facing the end times. Or maybe we're just dealing with the natural consequences of aggressive actions by a misdirected, ill-informed president. Not just today, but even back in 78, 79. Jimmy Carter, the jury's still out for me on him, his legacy. I think the problem with a lot of U.S. presidents is they don't have enough knowledge. They don't understand other countries. And they become very focused and enact policies that are very ideologically centric to their belief systems, their worldview, Christianity. And you're trying to impose a worldview to some degree, maybe even to a great degree, on a country, a theocracy that is not Christian-based at all. saying, oh, you can have freedom and you can have freedom of religion as long as it's not that. And therein kind of lies the problem. And you've got the whole Israel problem. I mean, just my God, it's so darn complicated. And when Carter became president, he went to Iran before the Iran hostage crisis. He met with the Shah. There was a fancy dinner and a big ballroom. And Carter stated at the time, he praised the Shah, who was corrupt in his own right. And certainly didn't have a limit on the number of years he could serve because it wasn't really a true democracy. And propped up by the United States, Carter goes over there, ill-informed peanut farmer. Didn't really understand the geopolitical realities of the day. Stood there at that dinner, gave a speech. I don't have it queued. Maybe I'll run it another night. But he said he called Iran, under the rule of the Shah, an island of stability in the Middle East. His speech revealed that he was very ignorant of the realities of the politics in that country and had no idea what was coming. It was just a short time later, after he left, that the Iran hostage crisis erupted, that the revolution took hold, and then the Americans were held for 444 days, and it ultimately cost him re-election. There's so much we're ignorant of. I have come to realize that, the more I learn, the more I realize how little I know. And that's why I've saved the best thing for last, because I think the best we can do tonight is share some, the best I can do for you tonight is share something that was shared with me so that I could share it with you. Sandy Sunshine phoned me. Sandy Sunshine left me a message. Sandy Sunshine, Maverick, all the way, is worried about the war. She's scared. But, being part of the community here, I think, like all of us, it gives us some strength and some hope. She left me a message and said I should share this with you. So I took what she said, threw it into this video. I'm going to leave you with this tonight. This message of peace, a message of hope, a message of freedom. In the face of this craziness, this war. Black rain. Is it some sort of prophetic moment? Maybe. Sure seems evil. Seems dark, doesn't it? That's why we need Sandy Sunshine right now. Here's her message. Love you guys. I'll see you back here, 7 p.m. Eastern, tomorrow, on the flip side.
It's Sandy. Rick, I'm learning. I want peace. I want world peace. War. What is it good for? Absolutely nothing. I want to live in a loving and graceful world and charm. This is for Maverick. Maverick singing good night. Take these sunken eyes and learn to see all your life. You're only waiting for this moment to arrive. You were only waiting for this moment to arrive. Blackbird fly, blackbird fly into the dark, dark night. Blackbird singing in the dead of night. Take these broken wings and learn to fly all your life. You're only waiting for this moment to be free. You were only waiting for this moment to be free. Blackbird fly, blackbird fly into the dark, dark night. Happy Sunday. I love Sundays. Enjoy your day. Sandy.
This has been a Maverick Multimedia production.